So yung changing from standard form to general form, it's the same as solving rational equations. Kaya lang, mas marami yung letters niya. Okay? Pero may x squared and y squared ka lang. Pero it's the same principle. You multiply it by its LCD to eliminate the denominator or to make it a simple equation. So, mumultiply mo lang siya ng LCD. So again, hindi ko na i-discuss ang lesson 11, although si lesson 11 and 12 ay magkasama sa activity. The first part will be the transforming into general form, and then the second part is finding the equation of the ellipse. Okay po? So I hope I will going to start now. Close ko na ang aking camera. I hope ay nag-practice for lesson 9 and 10 on how to give the coordinates of the important points for the ellipse para hindi na tayo nahihirapan sa lesson 12. Now, my question yung mga students kasi hindi daw yata na isama sa direction ang L sub 1, R sub 1. So for the parts, yung lesson 11 and 12, yung second part of lesson 11 and 12 activity, ay lahat po ibibigay. Even the endpoints of the latus rectum. Length of the LR, 1/2 LR, L sub 1, R sub 1, L sub 2, and R sub 2. Okay po? Lahat po ibibigay. Kung ano yung ginagawa natin doon sa exercises or doon sa mga example, lahat po yun ibibigay. Hindi ko daw yata na isama sa direction na L sub 1, endpoints of the latus rectum ay kukuhanin din. So, lahat po yun ibibigay. Kung hindi pa kayo nakakagawa, lahat po yun ay ibibigay sa lesson 12, sa lesson, 11 and 12. Okay? So,
Ma'am, di po kaya sa lesson, ano po yun, 9 and 10? Kasi po yung lesson 11 at 12.
Oo nga pala. Oo, tama. Tama ka doon. Lesson 9 and 10. Lesson 9 and 10. Lahat po ibibigay. Lesson 9 and 10, ayan. Endpoints of the minor axis, endpoints of the lateral recta. Ganito siya gagawin. Hindi ko yata daw na idagdag sa activity yung endpoints of the lateral recta. Yung L sub 1, R sub 1 for lesson 9 and 10. Okay? So, ganun yun. So, lesson 11, ito yung sinasabi ko na iiwan ko na sa inyo, transforming the equation of an ellipse from standard form to general form. So, changing lang naman yan from standard form to general form. And that is simply the same as solving rational equations. Okay? Kaya lang ang rational equations ay nagsosolve ka ng value ng x and y. Ito naman ay you just change it to general form by simply multiplying it by the LCD. So, madali nyo nang maiintindihan yan kasi nag-rational function naman kayo and how to simplify rational function, rational equation. Ayan. Multiplying by the LCD, the denominator is 16 and 4. So you multiply each term by 16. The LCD is 16. Okay? So expand muna bago multiply, bago distribution. Expand muna and then okay na siya. And then change that in the form ax squared plus cy squared plus dx plus ey plus f is equal to 0. So iiwan ko na sa inyo ang lesson 11. We will proceed now to lesson 12. Okay? So si lesson 11 and 12 ay pinagsama ko na sa isang activity. Yung the first part is transform to general form and then the other part is finding the equation of the ellipse. Okay. Finding the equation of the ellipse given certain conditions. So this is the other reverse of what we had for lesson 10 and 11, lesson 9 and 10. Sa lesson 9 and 10 ay given the equation of the ellipse, we are to give the parts, the coordinates of the parts. and then graph the ellipse. Ang lesson 12 naman ay pabaliktad niya. Given naman sum of the parts, we are to give the equation of the ellipse. Okay? So, from the parts, ano-ano yung parts uli? Recall natin yung parts of the ellipse. You have the center, you have the foci, you have the vertices. Vertices are the endpoints of the major axis. Then you have the co-vertices, the endpoints of the minor axis. And then you have the length of the latus rectum, latera recta. And then you also get the 1/2 of the LR. And then the endpoints of the latus rectum, L sub 1, R sub 1, and L sub 2, R sub 2. And then you also have the length of the minor axis, and then the length of the major axis. So there are 9 parts. For lesson 9 and 10, you will do the same, getting the 9 parts. Okay? So kung kulang man yung direction ko doon, ay sinasabi ko na sa inyo na kung ano yung examples ko doon ay ibibigay lahat. Okay? So para hindi ko na din siya, wala na magtanong sa akin, ibibigay lahat yung 9 parts for lesson 9 and 10. Okay, clear po tayo? And then you will recall which of those parts ang importante. So practice kayo ng multiple choice para masanay pag-answer ng multiple choice. So here is the equation of the ellipse, horizontal ellipse and vertical ellipse, and how to identify if the given equation is a horizontal ellipse or a vertical ellipse. So from here, kung babalik ta rin natin at given naman ng parts, ano-ano naman yung most important parts of the ellipse for you to give the equation. Ano naman yung mga important parts. So you can see here from your equation, ano dapat dito yung alam mo para maibigay mo ang equation ng ellipse. Anybody from the class? Class? May kausap po ba ako?
Ma'am, I think po yung center po, tas yung value ng AB.
Okay, correct. Yung center, dapat alam mo ang center kung HK or 00 yan. And also, the value of your A and B. So, yung A is a semi-major axis and ang B natin is the semi-minor axis. Yes, dapat yun ang alam mo for you to give the equation of the ellipse. And also, you must also know the orientation of the ellipse. Kung ba siya ay pa-horizontal o kung siya ba ay pa-vertical. Dapat alam mo pa din yun. So, to know that, ay titignan mo yung major axis. Sa major axis mo malalaman kung siya ay horizontal or vertical. Okay? So, if the vertices, dapat medyo familiar tayo sa mga pangalan na. Pag sinabi natin vertices, alam mo na endpoints yun ng major axis. At pag sinabi mong co-vertices, endpoints of the minor axis yun. So, kung ang vertices lying on the y-axis, then vertical yon. Kung lying on the x-axis, horizontal yon. 0, 0. And if it is parallel to y-axis, vertical din yon. Or kung parallel sa x-axis, horizontal din yun. Okay? So remember that to determine the equation of an ellipse, you need to know the type of the ellipse, if it is horizontal or vertical, the center HK, kasi kung 0, 0 naman yan, x squared lang, and the length of the semi-major and minor axis y-axis to derive the values of a squared and b squared. So, yun lang ang aalamin natin. So, for your activity, no need to follow the solution we have here kasi kasama dito ang explanation. No need for you to do that. You just identify yun nga ang sinasabi. So, ano-ano yung i-identify mo sa solution mo. Identify mo lang sa solution mo yung orientation ng ellipse, type of ellipse. Vertical ellipse ba siya? Horizontal ellipse ba siya? You can also use yung notification natin, yung notation natin for vertical ellipse, VMA, horizontal ellipse, HMA. Next, so identify mo yung type of ellipse mo. Second, identify mo lang yung A, what's the value of A, and what's the value of B, and then afterwards, you also give the value of A squared and B squared. And then the third one, you just identify the equation that you are going to use. Identify the equation that you are going to use. And then, your final answer na. Ganun lang kasimple. If you need solution for identifying A and B, then lagay mo na rin lang din yon. Okay? So, let's have the examples now. Find the equation of the ellipse in standard form given the following condition. So, standard form na lang. Okay? No need to change that to general form since medyo mahaba yung process niya, especially if it is in center HK, medyo mahirap mahaba. Hindi naman mahirap, mahaba yung process niya. So, you just give the equation in standard form. SF na lang. With center at the origin, vertices at 0, positive, negative 7. Dalawa po ito. 0, 7 and 0, negative 7. And co-vertices 5, negative 5, 0. 5, 0 and negative 0. So from here, makikita natin the vertices lies on the y-axis. So in other words, vertical siya. Kasi the vertices or the endpoints of the major axis lies on the y-axis. 0, 7 and 0, negative 7. So that those points are in the y-axis. Therefore, vertical ellipse ka. Okay? And the information given that the vertices at 0, 7 and 0, negative 7, it also gives us the value of A, which is the semi-major. The total length of the major axis is 14 units, and the semi-major is equal to 7 units. Okay? And vertical siya. And then the B, which is the co-vertices, your B is equal to 5 since semi-minor axis na yon. 10 is the length of the minor axis. Therefore, the semi-minor or B is equal to 5. And then the equation to be used, since it is vertical, therefore the equation you're going to use is x squared over b squared plus y squared over a squared is equal to 1. Then, substitute na tayo from the given equation. X squared over 25. If your A is equal to 7, therefore A squared is equal to 49, squaring both sides. And if B is equal to 5, therefore B squared is equal to 25. Therefore, ito na yung equation niya. Okay. So, ano po ito? SF lang. Okay na yun sa akin. So, ganun lang ang solution nyo. Number 2. With center at the origin, foci at positive, negative 4, 0, and the major axis is 12 units long. Major axis daw ay 12 units long. So, for the major axis, that is equal to 2a. 2a is the length of the major axis. Therefore, 2a is equal to 12. 2a is equal to 12. Therefore, a is equal to 6. Okay? Therefore, a squared is equal to 36. And since given sa atin ng foci, from focus to focus ay 8 units, kasi 40 tsaka negative 40, 8 units yon. Therefore, your focal length or C is equal to 4. And it is horizontal since the foci lies in the x-axis. Kung nasaan si foci, nandun si major axis. Magka-line up. Magkalinya po si vertices at saka si foci. Okay? Therefore, horizontal ellipse siya. Okay. Since wala tayong b squared or the value of b, we're going to use the relation. The relation we are going to use for the ellipse is c squared is equal to a squared minus b squared. Hindi dapat nag-negative yon. Therefore, to find c squared or b squared, substitute natin yung c squared natin and a squared. So, ito na po yun. 16 is equal to 36 minus b squared. Solving for b squared, 36 minus 16, therefore b squared is equal to 20. And since horizontal siya, therefore, ang gagamitin mong formula ay ito, x squared over a squared plus y squared over b squared is equal to 1. Then substitute the value of a squared and b squared. This is now the equation of the ellipse. Madali lang, di ba? Okay, number 3. Any questions from number 1 and 2? Madali lang kasi yung 1 and 2. Okay, number 3. With center 0, 0, ellipse passes through the point A3. So, nagdaan daw sa A3. And the major axis is 20 units long and lies along the y-axis. Plus, pagka hindi minention, kunyari sinabi lang na major axis is 20 units, minor axis is equal to 10 units, at hindi sinabi kung nasaan si major axis, two solutions yun. Dalawa sagot nun. Okay? So, pag nagsasatisfy siya sa condition na pwede siyang vertical ellipse at saka horizontal ellipse, at hindi sinabi sa problem kung saan naglalay si major axis, sinabi lang ng gaano kahaba si major axis at si minor axis, then dalawa ang sagot mo. Okay? Isang vertical, isang horizontal. Kasi possible siya. Kasi hindi minention eh. So, ibig sabihin, to satisfy the condition, dalawa yun nagsasatisfy sa condition. Dalawang equation. Okay po? Now, since dito sa number 3, sinabi naman kung saan naglalay ang major axis lying along the y-axis daw. Therefore, ang major axis natin ay 20 units, lies along the y-axis. Therefore, alam mo na vertical siya. Isang solution lang siya. Okay? Pero kung hindi sinabi na sa problem, hindi sinabi kung nasaan si major axis, possible answer mo must be 2. 2 equation yon. Kasi both of the equations satisfy the condition eh. Possible siya, pwede siya. So, dapat dalawa ang sagot. Okay? So, since ma-identify natin ang major axis daw ay 20 units. So, 2A is equal to 20. 2A is the length of the major axis. Minor axis is 2B. Foci between foci ay 2C. Solve natin ang A. A is equal to 10 and A squared is equal to 100. And the ellipse is vertical. Okay? So, wala na tayong way. Meron na tayong A squared pero wala tayong B squared. So, to get the B squared, we're going to use the point A3. Gagamitin natin yung point A3. To. Kasi sabi ay the ellipse passes through the point. Nagdaan siya doon. sa set of all points. And which also means na the coordinates, the point with coordinates A3 is a solution of the equation. Solution siya kasi point on the ellipse siya. Solution of the equation siya. Therefore, if that is a solution of the equation, you can substitute that for the value of x and y. X is equal to 8 and y is equal to 3. Okay? So from the vertical ellipse equation, isa-substitute natin yung x is equal to 8 and y is equal to b at saka si a squared is equal to 100. Then we can solve for b squared. Yan. Masosolve natin ngayon si b squared. Okay? Next. Okay, ito na ngayon. Rational equation tayo. So multiply the equation by its LCD. Ang LCD niya ay look at the denominator. Wala naman siyang common. So the LCD is the product of that. 100b squared. Yun ang LCD niya. The reason why we identify the LCD is for us to eliminate the denominator, to make it a simple equation. Yun ang purpose kaya tayo nag-multiply ng LCD, para mawala ang denominator. Okay? So multiply the whole equation, right side and left side of the equation by its LCD. So 100b squared ang LCD niya. So if we multiply 100b squared to 64 over b squared, makakancel si b squared, may iwan si 100 times 64. Ito yun. Okay? Pagka naman si 9 over 100, minultiply natin ng LCD 100b squared, makakancel si 100 at ang may iwan si b squared multiplied to 9. Ito po yun. And then si 1, both side of the equation, ha? Si 1, imumultiply ng 100b squared is equal to 100b squared. So wala ka na ngayon denominator. So, yun ang gagawin nyo sa lesson 11. Okay? Or, isa pang way dito, kapag ang LCD is the product of the denominator, i-cross-multiply mo na lang yan. Cross-multiply, ganun din yun nangyari dito, is equal to 1 times the LCD. Huwag mong kalilimutan si 1 na i-multiply ng LCD, ng product ng denominator. Kaya 100b squared. Okay? So we have now 6,400 plus 9b squared is equal to 100b squared. Solve for b squared tayo. Ito na po siya. Transpose 9b squared, magiging negative siya. Negative 9b squared. 91b squared is equal to 6,400. Divide both sides by 91. Right side and left side by 91. So b squared is equal to 6,400 over 91. Now, since ay hindi naman tayo nagde-decimal sa equation, we simply write that under the denominator of x squared. So, ang a squared natin is 100, b squared natin is 6,400 over 91. Or if you want, para medyo mas magandang tignan yung equation mo, i-reciprocal mo siya. Then, isama mo na kay x squared. I-reciprocal mo. Although, ang standard form niya ay ito. Ito ang standard form niya. Okay? Number 4. With vertices 4, 2, 12, 2, semi-minor axis is 3 units long. HK na tayo. So, for the HK naman, pag walang center siya, madali lang yon. Kasi pag wala siyang center, center is always the middle point of the vertices. 3 units long. 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 middle point din siya ng foci, middle point din siya ng co-vertices. So kung given ang vertices, kuhanin mo lang yung by midpoint formula, may center ka na. Kung given ang co-vertices, midpoint nun, center na. Okay? So, kasi nga, center lahat siya. Center ay middle point ng vertices, foci, co-vertices. So, kung nawawala ang center, middle point siya ng mga endpoints. Vertices, co-vertices, and foci. So, using the midpoint formula, ito na yung ating center. Our center is at 8, 2. Okay? And then, if you want to visualize it, pwede naman i-plot ang points. Ayan, naka-plot na siya. Pero pwede naman din by analysis sa utak. So, tignan mo lang dyan kung ano ang changes, kung ano ang pagbabago between the vertices. So, ang pagbabago niya nasa x and y, sa x coordinates ang pagbabago. 4, 2, tsaka 12, 2. So, sa x ang nagbago. Therefore, horizontal yon. Kasi nasa left and right niya. Okay? So, kung hindi naman ma-visualize yun mentally, pwede naman i-plot ang points. Wala naman problema doon. Okay? So, nasa left and right niya, 8 units lahat ang iyong major axis. Your major axis, the distance between the two vertices is the length of the major axis. So, that is 8 units from 4 to 12, 2. So, major axis mo yun. Therefore, if the major axis is 8 units, therefore, your A is equal to 4. Ayan. And A squared is equal to 16. Okay? And since the A1 and A2 or vertices are on the left and right of the center, therefore, horizontal ellipse ka. Okay? And then, sabi din sa problem na ang semi-major is 3 units. Therefore, B is equal to 3 and B squared is equal to 9. Okay? So, the formula that you are going to use ay ito, x minus h quantity squared over a squared kasi hk ka na. Y minus k quantity squared over b squared is equal to 1. Substitute now the hk. Be careful sa pagsasubstitute. So, that will become x minus 8 quantity squared all over 16 plus y minus 2 quantity squared over 9 is equal to 1. Don't forget the equal to 1. Kasi kapag walang equal to 1 yan, ay mamaliin ko ang equation nyo sa inyong activity. Kung yan ay inequal nyo sa 0, ay mamaliin ko din. Kasi it is not the equation of the ellipse. Hindi siya equal to 0. Siya ay equal to 1. Kung hindi mo naman lalagyan ng equal to 1, minsan kasi gano'n na nangyayari class, pagmamadali, pagkopya, nakakalimutan ng equal to 1. Okay? So, as of now, I'm still trusting you, guys, na you are doing your activity on your own. That's why you are practicing. At hindi lumalaganap sa klase ang kopyahan. Okay? So, I will just like to remind you, class, na kung may nangyayari ng cheating sa inyong section, ay nire-remind ko lang kayo na hindi nyo ko naloloko. Okay? Bahala kayo sa buhay nyo. Kasi ako naniniwala ako sa reaping and sowing. Kung anong itinanim mo, yun ang aanihin mo. Kung ano ang pinagagawa mo, yun ang mapapala mo. So, ako kasi ay naniniwala na hindi minsan yung mga ginagawa nating mali ay may darating ang oras na may katumbas Sorry, class. So, yun po. So, I would like to remind you na hindi ako ang niloloko nyo. Okay? Yun ang gusto kong i-point doon. Kung akala nyo nakakalusot kayo, di magpakaligaya kayo. Kasi alam ko may balik yan. Kasi naniniwala ako sa ganon. Hindi siya immediate ang balik. Sometimes ang balik niya ay sa mga future activities mo or sa mga future endeavors mo. Ganun ang balik noon. Kasi ako'y naniniwala na sa reaping and sowing, kung ano yung pinag-aagawa mo later in your life ay may pangyayari sa buhay mo na magiging resulta ng pinag-aagawa mo previously. Okay? So, pinapaalam ko lang sa inyo na kung may nangyayari man kopyahan sa section nyo at meron kayong kaklasing nagmamagaling, nagagaling-galingan, na isang hingi nyo lang ay ibibigay niya, ay meron din yun meron din yung katumbas na pangyayari sa buhay natin later on. Okay? So, yun lang ang paalala ko, class. Kasi hindi ko kontrolado yun eh. Ayokong mamroblema, ayokong isipin. Kaya ako ay nag-iisip lang ng ganon na gusto ko lang ipaalam sa inyo na doon sa ginagawa nyo yun, hindi ako ang niloloko nyo. Okay? May mas niloloko kayo na mas higit na nakakakita sa inyo na later on ay baka bumaliktad sa inyo, ay ma-disappoint ka or masaktan ka, hindi mo matanggap. Okay? Kasi later on in our life, baka mamaya, malay ko ba kung makapag-college kayo? Malay ko ba kung makagraduate kayo ng college? Diba? Kung yun ang magiging kapalit or yun ang magiging resulta ng mga kapabayaan nyo, malay ko ba kung nakailan take ka ng math sa college? Kasi I remember, nung ako'y nasa engineering pa, ng Lyceum, nasa engineering department ako. Take 1, take 2, take 3, pang take 4 niya na sa akin. Sa subject na yon. Ilagi siya sa akin bumabaksak. Take 1, baksak. Take 2, baksak. Take 3, baksak. Pagdating ng take 4, ako na naman. Engineering student siya. Nakaka-take 4 na siya. Hindi pa higher math yun ha. Parang ito lang, analytic geometry, parabola ellipse lang. Nakakapang take 4 na siya. Sabi ko, ba't kaya ganito tong batang to? Hindi makalusot-lusot. O later on, nung mga ilang ano na, nakita ko siya ulit. Oo na, kamusta ka na? Kasi gano'n naman eh, kahit na baksak siya ng baksak, eh, mga friends pa rin naman ang mga teacher at saka estudyante. Hindi sila naghihinakit kasi ay alam nila na kung saan natin kinukuha ang score. Hindi naman tayo nag-iimbento ng score. Binabalik naman natin ang papel. Pinapakita naman ng result ng exam. Iyon. So, alam niya. Kaya minsan yung ibang estudyante kapag ka-final period na at alam nilang meron na silang prelim grade, meron na silang midterm grade, at alam nilang hindi sila aabot, hindi na yung papasok. Tatanggapin na nila. Ganun ang ibang estudyante. Alam na nila hindi na sila lulusot. Hindi na sila makakaahon. Hindi na sila makakabawi. Yun. Later on, nakita ko siya, ma'am, wala na po ako sa engineering, IT po ako. Nag-shift po ako sa IT. Isip-isip ko, sana noong ka pa nag-decide para hindi ka na bumayad sa kaka-take mo ng subject. Magkano rin ang bayad per take ng isang subject. Nakailang take ka ng subject bago ka nag-decide na hindi mo pala kaya ang engineering. Nasa IT na. Yun po. Mali ba natin kung ganun ang magiging kapalaran, di ba? So, ang punot dulo nun ay siguro nung siya ay nasa junior high ay hindi niya ganun kaseryoso ang pag-aaral na ginawa niya. Kaya ayan, hirap na hirap siya pagdating sa college. Okay. Yun lang paalala ko, class. Hindi to para sa akin. Hindi to sa, ay nakalusot ako kay ma'am. Ay nakapasa ako ng senior high. O sige, di nakapasa ka ng senior high. Nang pabanjing-banjing ka lang. Eh di, tingnan natin kung ano magiging kahinatnan mo. Di pa naman tapos ang buhay. Di lang naman dyan natatapos sa senior high yan. Marami pang darating na kwento ng buhay. Okay, number 5. Class yun ay sinasabi ko talaga sa klase. Kasi baka akala ng estudyante ay feeling niya nakakalusot siya. Sa akin walang problema yun eh. Hindi ko kontrolado yun eh. Malay ko ba kung nag-uusap-usap kayo, di ba? Hindi ko kontrolado yun eh. And wala akong magagawa doon. Yun ang sinasabi ko. Walang magagawa doon. Hindi ko siya kontrolado. Pero nire-remind ko ang estudyante ko na kasi ang reaping and sowing ay totoo yun. Nasa Bible yun. Na kung ano yung itinatanim mo ay later on ay may aanihin ka at kung ano man yung pinaggagawa mo sa buhay mo, later on in your life ay meron yung kahihinatnan. Okay? With center negative 1, 2, so given ang center sa atin, 1 vertex, negative 1, 7, o given ang isang vertex, isang endpoint na major axis, axis, and then 1 focus, 2, 5. So kung gusto mo siyang i-flat with gusto mo isama ang plotting of points for you to analyze it, okay lang naman. Okay? So from the center, negative 1, 2, 2, 5 ang isang foci, F sub 1, at negative 1, 7 ang isang vertex, A sub 1. So you will notice na nasa above siya of the center. Above the center siya, therefore, vertical ellipse ka. And then, you count the number of units from the center to 1 focus, 3 units, therefore your C is equal to 3. And then from center to A sub 1, 5 units, therefore your semi-major is 5 units. O, ayun na. So your A is equal to 5, A squared is equal to 25, your C is equal to 3, your C squared is equal to 9, and then wala tayong B squared. So use again the relation C squared is equal to A squared minus B squared to compute for B squared is equal to 16. Okay? And the ellipse is vertical. Ganun lang ang solution. So, using the equation, this will be the equation that you're going to use. Substitute now the HK. Be careful in substituting your HK. Negative 1, 2, the center is negative 1, 2. And when we change that into equation, that will become x plus 1 quantity squared over 16 plus y minus 2 quantity squared over 25 is equal to 1. Okay? So, ingat doon sa paglalagay ng HK. Opposite in sign dapat pagka inilagay mo na siya sa equation. Okay? Next. Number 6. Center negative 2, 3. 1 vertex negative 2, 3. Negative 2, negative 3 ang center. Latus rectum is equal to 9 units. So, given si latus rectum ngayon, 9 units daw si latus rectum. Pag LR ang given sa atin, given ang length of the latus rectum, di ba ang formula ng LR natin ay 2b squared over A? So, if you're going to use the latus rectum, dapat identify ka ng isa sa kanila, A or B. Or else, di ka makako-compute din. So, since given sa atin ng isang co-vertex, so ma-identify natin ng B. Kaya solve for A tayo using the formula of the latus rectum. Okay? So, ang center daw natin ay negative 2, negative 3, and 1 co-vertex, B sub 1, is above the center. Therefore, horizontal tayo. Kasi B sub 1 yan, co-vertex yan, magka-cross sila ni major and minor, magka-cross yan. So, kung si minor ay above the center, therefore, si major ay right and left of the center. Therefore, horizontal siya. And then, from center to B sub 1 is 6 units. Therefore, B is equal to 6 and B squared is equal to 36. Okay? Horizontal siya, class. Horizontal. Therefore, using the formula
Paano
for
po
LR.
nalaman kung bakit horizontal?
Kasi si minor. Si minor kasi above the center. Di ba magka-cross sila si major at saka si minor? Magka-cross. So, kung si minor ay above, therefore, si major ay left and right. Horizontal ellipse ka. Minor to minor. Co-vertex minor yun. Di ba magka-cross si minor at saka si major?
Ma'am, dun po sa sa parang given, wala naman po nakalagay na parang indication po.
Dito, sa given?
Opo.
Yun na nga. Di ba sinabi co-vertex? Ano yung co-vertex?
Okay po, na-gets ko na po.
Di ba ano ang co-vertex? Ang co-vertex ay endpoints of the minor axis yun, di ba?
Opo.
Okay. So, nung pinlat natin, -2, -3 ang center, -2, 3. Lumalabas nasa taas niya, above the center si minor. Edi si minor, vertical. Therefore, horizontal si ellipse. Kasi si minor at saka si major, magka-cross yun Magka-cross. Diba? Dexter?
Hindi po ako si Dexter.
Hindi kasi Dexter. Sino ka? Nanguhula no? Sino po?
Si Ralph po, Manuba.
Si EJ. EJ.
Hindi rin po.
Arat, sabi mo, tignan ko nga.
Ma'am, di po ako.
Ralph po, sir.
Nanguhula ako Stanley? Sino siya?
Ralph Manuba po.
Si Ralph Manuba. Yan ang maganda sa online Nanguhula. Sorry, class Okay na tayo. Okay ka na, Ralph?
Opo, thank you po.
Okay. So, kumbinsido ka na horizontal siya.
Opo.
O naguguluhan ka pa rin?
Okay na po.
Okay ka na. So, knowing that the latus rectum is equal to 9 units and your B squared is equal to 36, masasolve natin si A using the formula for LR. So, LR is equal to 9. Therefore, 9 is equal to 2B squared over A. And then, ang B squared natin is 36. Solve for A tayo. Okay? So, lumalabas is 9A is equal to 72. And then, A is equal to 8. And A squared is equal to 64. Okay na? And then, we're going to use the horizontal ellipse equation under the x squared ang ating A squared. Therefore, ito na yung ating standard form. X plus 2 quantity squared over 64 plus y plus 3 quantity squared over 36 is equal to 1. Si minor at saka si major, magka-cross yun, magka-cross. Kaya pag sinabing ang minor axis nyo, co-vertex nyo is above the center, ibig sabihin si major axis nyo ay si vertices ay left and right. Kaya nga sabi ko sa inyo, dapat familiar kayo sa mga pangalan nila. Okay? So, we're done. Tapos na po tayo.